Good morning, everybody. My name is David Williams, and I'm super pleased to be here today with you for our Market Thoughts program. Thank you so much for coming. If you're new to Trader, you can ask questions and make comments. Just type them into the GoToWebinar text box. I'll be very happy to address those. Our company is Trader. We're now in our 23rd year of providing market forecasts like these for traders all over the world. Please be sure to read our trading disclaimer. Trading is risky, you can lose money, and so on. That's at the bottom of each of our website pages, and particularly important if you are new to the market. So again, thanks for coming. So we have a lot about to happen in the markets, primarily because of the incredible Fed interest rate announcement that we have to go through tomorrow. And I'm thinking it's going to be pretty amazing to see that happen, because it probably is the most important Fed announcement maybe in the past decade or more, since they're going to raise the interest rate by, I mean, at least 50 basis points, if not 3/4 of a point. And then we're going to have insane volatility in the market. So that's going to mean that we're going to see just probably a week or more of really high volatility with a lot of really good, beautiful indications that the market's going to give. So I'm looking forward to that. And I hope those of you that are either in our subscriptions or anything, even if you're not, I hope you can participate on some level and take advantage of just these wonderful opportunities that the market provides when these events happen, like just pretty much any Fed interest rate announcement. But this one in particular has a really large probability of producing insane market volatility. Last time I was with you, I had given out this complex looking forecast where on Tuesday, we said on Tuesday, 426, which was the day before the 3 days I told you various prices would happen last time I was in this meeting. It was a 3-step forecast. The S&P should advance to 42.58 to 60 on 427 to 428. Here they are on 428 doing that. Then decline to 41.90 to 88 on 428. Here they are declining to 41.88, 90 to 88. They got down to 41.82 on 428, and then declined to 41.28 to 26 on 429. Here's 429, and they declined all the way down to 41.18. We were looking for 41.28 to 26. All of that was given out when the market looked like this right here. So that's 3 separate dates in the future for highly specific market movement to happen. Let me see what else I have here. Some recent stuff this morning. We said that the S&P should advance to 41.83 to 84 into today's 3rd hour. This was in the room. A lot of this had happened by the time we had gotten into our meeting, but in the 3rd hour, we made a high of 41.95. We were simply looking for 41.83 to 84. Honestly, on days before the Fed announcement, in most cases, we'll trade, but today, I really am not crazy about the tone of the market. And I think it's partly because the market is anticipating tomorrow. I mean, they can do a lot, and we have a forecast out right now for where the market's going on the upside, which I can tell you here is higher prices. But, and it really actually could be considered to be due into today. We have one indication into tomorrow. But either way, it's higher prices than what we've seen. And but I think that the trading will be better. The actual being able to, not just the forecasting, but trading the moves will be a little better probably in tomorrow's session after the Fed interest rate announcement comes out. So we'll see what happens with that. As we're speaking, actually, over here on the right, soybeans, although this chart depicts a different forecast, we have a larger forecast for soybeans to get down to $16.26 from $17.17. So we had a really sizable indication on soybeans to go down. and they're still doing it. They're still getting a lot of that move down. So really, we're focused, like I'm sure you are, if you're interested in trading, on the Fed announcement. However you trade it, maybe you're in the Dow Jones, maybe in the Russell, maybe in the NASDAQ, maybe in the S&P, but there are plenty of things to do, will be plenty of things to do once the market sort of settles out a little bit from that initial shock. Even if it's expected, it will still produce big moves in the market. The S&P right now is sort of centering around our 184 to 183 target that we gave out this morning. They're pulling back. If we were to take a look, say just at a 15-minute chart, let's get back to the S&P, and here they are coming down to retest that level. See, there's certain things that they're doing today that I'm not crazy about from a trading perspective. It's hard to define it. It's hard to verbalize it, what it is, but it's kind of chippy, choppy, back and forth, even though ultimately they'll go complete the numbers that we've talked about to our group. It's just not really kind of normal trading. It's a little different, and it's anticipatory with regard to the Fed interest rate announcement and so on. So anyway, one of my great friends of mine, his his fiance is struggling with with cancer, and she's too young, really. I mean, I know you can, it's weird to say that, but she just is. She's too young to have this. She's in her 30s, and it was very concerning to a doctor friend of mine at the time when he heard about it. And he felt that could mean that it was an aggressive form, and it turned out to be an aggressive form. And as I've mentioned previously, I think she's been through pretty much all of the treatments that would be considered to be normal for this disease. And really, she just has had no, it just hasn't turned the thing around. So she's just beginning some less, what would the word be? Not unnormal, but outside the medical box, the normal medical box. She's going to be trying that, and we're hoping that she will see some results from that. And if you've been through this before with people that it is it's difficult to really state how you feel the compassion and the stress of knowing that this person is fighting with everything they've got. It's both heartbreaking and amazing to see how much strength people have in the face of these kinds of things. But I guess I'm just bringing that up just to say that it seems like it's gotten somewhat worse, and she's dealing with this. And all of us, when we hear about other people, that seems really young. I know children get disease as well, but that's a whole different thing. For her to be in her 30s and get it, it's just a peculiar thing. So best wishes to her. I'm just sending that out to the universe to continue to struggle, but to hopefully make some progress. And I'll keep you informed on that as we go on. One other thing I wanted to mention, I've mentioned in the past that there was the old TV series, The Outer Limits, and I'm talking about the original Outer Limits, which actually was an incredibly advanced program for its time. And back then, there were certain episodes of The Outer Limits that the networks wouldn't even allow to be shown because they were so disturbing in their frighteningness and their unusualness, and the masks, or not the masks, but just the whole thing was just freaky, and it was very different than any other program that had ever been on TV before. maybe we could say it's different than any program that's been on TV since the original Outer Limits. And because of my experience, I've mentioned this before here, because of my experience with a particular show in the Outer Limits called one of the series shows, which was episodes, which was called The Inheritors. And the last time I had seen The Inheritors was in the very early 1990s. So, and why The Inheritors had struck me was because I had just started getting into markets, and the story was about men that were in war that had been shot in the head, but then each of those men started taking on tasks that were seemingly independent of each other, but all were towards a common goal that people were trying to figure out. You'd have to see the whole program. One of those men was the guy that needed to get money in order to make this plan occur. And I won't wreck the story for you by telling you, it's a really beautiful story. I mean, honestly, it's quite touching. And anyway, he needed to get money, and the intelligence that was in these individual men that got into their head through the bullets that they had gotten shot with, chose to get that money by going to a broker, an experience we've all had, and to start trading in markets like wheat or soybeans or whatever it was back then. And so there's a scene in The Inheritors where this man, under the influence of this, what later turns out to be alien intelligence in his head, because this bullet or fragment got into his head in war, he began buying and selling commodities. And they show a whole little scene there where the broker's warning him that prices can move very quickly, and he could be out all of his money and all of this. And finally, at the end of some really relatively short period of time, like a week or two or something, I can't remember, but he was leaving with a check for like $350,000. And so that really was a big moment for me back then emotionally. I really loved the whole story, but I really loved the way this alien intelligence was able to come in and utilize the markets in such a brilliant way that he was able to collect enough funds to do the collective bidding, if you will, of this larger intelligence that was directing individual men who had shrapnel in their head towards an end. And this was an alien intelligence. And so it really meant something a lot to me. The other day, I got a chance to watch the entire episode again for the first time since the very early 90s, like 1991. And I didn't fast forward up to the scene that I'm telling you about. I just watched the whole thing because I was really interested to see it again. And it was just wonderful. It was very, very beautiful. And I would hope that some of you would have a chance to do that. Stay with me just 1 second here. Anyway, thank you for waiting. I was going to say, I hope you will get a chance to see that. The series is called The Outer Limits. The episode is called The Inheritors. If you get a chance to see it, it's a really it's a very interesting story, and it has a very touching end and a very nice end and a surprising end at that. A lot of the Outer Limits were really, really ahead of their time. And these were like little episodes that were put together in like 5 or 6 days of filming and stuff. I mean, the acting was great and everything. So just wanted to say, I got a chance to see that again. I got a chance to see that scene, and brought back a lot of, nice memories of seeing that. And, back then it meant a lot to me to be able to have that as a motivator, that there was an intelligence that could know or could understand advanced things about the market, really just about anything, but in this case, particularly about something that I was, and of course still am, very, very interested in. And as it turns out, or as it turned out over many, many years, and it is a surprise to me even, that I somehow was able to climb Trader's Mountain to the point where I'm able to do what I'm doing now, something that I really would never have thought I would have been involved in, and been, to have real competency at it. So that gives me hope for other people who might feel like they would never have competency. And it's not just over them or about the market. It could be, people might not feel they're competent about all kinds of things, but actually you could be the real deal. You just don't feel like you are. And that's why sometimes you have to press on, even though you don't feel at all like, you would be able to go very far with that. In fact, I would say that most people's experience in life, a lot of people, not maybe most, but a lot of people are surprised by what they were able to accomplish just because they tried, right? I mean, you can think about things all you want, but until you really try and make real efforts, you really maybe haven't gone that far. So when you do really try and make efforts, I think many people in life have been surprised by what they were able to do because they made efforts. And by making efforts, they got closer to the subject. By getting closer to the subject, they got more in contact with something deeper about the subject. And then they started asking better questions, and that led to better answers, and it leads to more and more. So, and it's not true just about the markets, of course. It could be any endeavor. There are people who are born tremendously talented, and right out of the box, they're just super talented, and they start from a level that many other people might have had to be 50 years old to get that much information. There's people that are born that literally appear to have just picked up right off from where they left off in maybe their previous life. And they're already loaded up with either musical talent or some other kind of information that they're already just ready to go. And those are just a marvel to see in life. But the idea isn't to compare ourselves to other people, but to find our own potential. That's what we're trying to do. All right, let me see what's on your mind today about anything that you have. I'd like to see here. David Miller says, did she get the COVID shot? People are dying from this shot. Check out Mike Lindell. Yeah, I have heard that. And unfortunately, one of our customers, who I won't name, but a long, long time customer, just died last week in kind of an unusual way. And he was, and listen, I'm not taking the position publicly here that the shots are directly related to people's deaths, but there have been a number of actual doctors, they're repressed, of course, because of the way the media works, that have expressed quite a bit of concern about the spike protein that is utilized in the Pfizer vaccine, and probably the other vaccines as well, and that in some kind of interaction, this is the working theory, that in some kind of interaction in the body, that the spike protein can damage blood vessels and could cause a stroke or could cause some other serious internal thing over time. Well, as it turns out, our customer, who was a great customer of ours, I mean, just a lovely guy, and he was up in the years where you would say, well, people, as they get older, people tend to live, they have a remaining portion of their life as less. I think he was in his very early 70s, and he was out here in Nevada. He had traveled out here with a friend, and they were doing something on, I think, some kind of off-road vehicle. Not something you would think maybe a 70-year-old guy would be doing, but he died almost instantaneously, and later we found out it was a massive stroke. So Jerry, of course, asked if he had been, because Jerry knows about all this, he asked if he had been vaccinated and so on. And again, I'm not making a connection here, but I do know that there are people, including doctors, that have suggested that there is a potential for problems with people. He had been shot and boosted, and I don't know that there's any connection at all. I just know that there are questions, and there should be, about the vaccine. It was rushed. Pfizer, this company, has been fined more than any other company that I'm aware of, basically for fraud over the years. Pfizer has been caught in a number of very bad situations and had to pay big fines and so on. Now, you can go check that out for yourself and see that that is the case. They have a really poor background, but they may be very skilled and probably are at putting these vaccines together and so on. But yeah, David, this is one of those subjects that if you bring this up and you bring any questions about it, unfortunately, there's a group of people that want to just destroy you because they really don't want people talking or thinking any way outside of how they want you to talk and to think. And what's ironic, though, is that virtually all of the things that this particular group of people have blocked us from knowing or hearing more about because they said they weren't really true, all of them have now turned out to be true. So it boils down to the fact that they're just blocking things that make a particular political party look bad or that exposes something about that party and so on. So yeah, we have to be still careful. Elon Musk buying Twitter is a great start, as we've talked about. But the premise that we need a group of people to moderate, which means block free speech, free ideas, thoughts, whether they're stupid or not, because it might be misinformation, is the biggest pile of BS that I've ever heard in my life. America is based on free speech. We didn't need moderators before, and they're not moderators. That's just a title for what they're really doing, which is just telling you what to think and how to think, and what is real and what isn't real. And that's exactly what happens in North Korea. The people who live in North Korea don't have your worldview because they don't know about your world. Because in North Korea, everything they get on the internet is propaganda. All of it is telling them what they want them to think. And after a long time of that, people just accept that, and that's their worldview. Well, that's where all this leads to. If you give somebody the opportunity to block information or to, chastise you or to shut you down or to cancel you because you say something that they don't agree with, then before you know it, those people are using that power to corral power for themselves and their minions. And before you know it, you have a North Korea. They do the same thing in China as well, but to somewhat lesser extent. Thank you, David. Jim is here and he says, do I get an attaboy for picking the 41.18 price low for your Friday close challenge? That was thanks to your reflected wave and squares training. Thank you, Jim. You did, actually. And I do want to give you credit for that, Jim. And thank you for reminding me. We were talking about forecasting that Friday the 29th would go down and go to 41.28 to 26. And Jim had piped in on that day, the day, before we got there, of course, that it was going to go down. This was days before that it was going to go down to 41.18. So yes, Jim, you do get, if I could push an applause button, you would get the applause. That was a great call. And you deserve credit for that, but I love the fact that you're asking, do I get an attaboy? You're darn right you do. That was really good. I really appreciate, listen, I appreciate anybody who makes a forecast. And of course, it's hard not to appreciate it even more if it is correct. There are so many different moves that can happen in a market and so many different ways to sort of put it all together that in the end, no one is really going to be replicating somebody else. Everyone's going to end up pretty much with their own call for what the market's going to do, although it might be similar in some ways. And thank you for giving credit to our reflected wave and squares training. And with that little segue, great call, James, really, really good. And with that little segue, I just want to mention that we are today going to have our new forecast live utilizing the square principle webinar today at 12:30 Pacific time. And I've given out 8 correct forecasts on 8 separate occasions for sizable market moves in these webinars, demonstrating square principle premise at work, where I'll be teaching that on June 25th and 26th at the Mirage Hotel. So if you have some interest in learning more about the square principle and how we utilize it, how I utilize it in making our forecasts, and Jim just gave some credit to it as well, you can come today at 12:30 p.m. Just click on this register button and you'll come to this page that's coming up here. And you'll just put your name in and so on, and then you're good to go. So that'll be fun if you can come. We'll be very happy to have you there, and you can consider learning what I believe is one of the most interesting ways to know without having to go through a great deal of complexity. What I consider to be my roadmap work is complicated. There's no two ways about it. And it's grown even more complicated, unfortunately, as I've developed it further. So without having to deal with great complexity, the square principle allows you to know that highly specific distant price targets are going to be reached by the market and that the market is about to run to them. So it's very interesting. I hope you can make it there. So yeah, thank you, Jim. Great. I'm glad you reminded me to give you the attaboy, because you do have that coming. Let's see here. So Rob is here and he says, hi, David, anything new for soybeans? Yeah, just that soybeans are attempting to get down to the 1628 to 26 level. And this has been a forecast for a couple of weeks. Longer term forecast, they're actually getting down there pretty spanky here, pretty quick today, by today, getting today's low of 1630. And if I'm not mistaken, this takes us, I don't mind telling you, probably into June. So let's just take a quick look back here. If you don't mind me flipping through here. Yeah, this would be, we're still looking for soybeans. They're showing it down to 1626. That, so we were shorting, we're originally, we'll be testing or attempting 17.3 to 1704. Yeah, so we're interested in shorting 1717 to 1720 down here. I'm going to put it in print here. This was the forecast a week or so ago. Would be taking partial exits around 1692 on the downside. This would be by April 27th. In June, soybeans should be trading at 1648, and then the final target would be 1626, and that would be by June. Well, today we're only in early May, and they've already gotten down to 1630, 1629.4 now. So that forecast is early, but that's okay. We're very happy to see that. So thank you. Let's see. Ted says, new thoughts on Apple. Apple's doing okay. There's nothing, Apple doesn't really, as far as we're concerned right now, nothing that we're overly concerned about with Apple. We are following Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, Twitter until they go private, and not Facebook, but Netflix. So Netflix had the big crash, once you go woke, you go broke, and that company did just that, and the public's not having any of it, and there's other reasons involved as well. But it's kind of, you you see that happen and you want to short it, like with Disney or something, because it just leads to no good, kind of a dream world, and so on. So the reality is that Netflix is in a really bad position now because of this, and they're going to have to make changes at the company in order to have a chance at survival at this point. There are other streaming services, and Netflix, I've never had it, but I want you to know that I've been told numerous times that they are the very best. They have the system worked out the best of any of the companies. So they certainly have a good product from what everybody's told me, and that's great. They've taken on some new ideas, and they're just going to have to go back to what actually works for them rather than going down this path, I believe. And I think a lot of people think that way as well. Samuel's here and he says, are you saying that we could have wild swings up and down for a week? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm saying that starting tomorrow, when the Fed has its interest rate announcement put out, you're going to see volatility that is probably insane. So if it isn't insane, it's going to be really, really good. And it's going to be good for at least a week or more. So we are looking forward to that. I'm not crazy about today, trading today. I'm not so crazy about it. The tone of the market and some other things are just not up. It's not, this is something that if you're really a person who isn't saying, we all like to make money. We all are very happy when we make money, right? But if you're not that person who's saying, every day I get up, I have to make money, then it's not that difficult to say, you know what, the market's really not doing things the way I want to see it today. And this is an anticipatory market in anticipation of tomorrow. I'm just not, and I've seen this before the interest rate announcement, but not every time. But this is one of the biggest and most important interest rate announcements. So, if you're not hung up every day on that premise, oh, I got to make my points and all that stuff, then you're pretty cool with the idea that, this isn't really something that I'm excited about. Now, I'm going to continue watching it throughout the day. Like right now we're having this big decline. That's great. I might be able to find something in there that I could do something with if I get out of this meeting soon enough to go do that. But overall, I haven't been crazy, nor has Jerry, and we haven't actually taken trades in the room. So I myself did do something in the market this morning. And quite honestly, the market moved against my position this morning. And I was able, and I don't want to say that this is a strategy that I would use every time or that you should use every time, but there was an additional point. It was a short position. It was an additional point to get short for a target that, again, would be normally reached on the downside, even though they had moved against my original position. And they did move down, and they let me out with a basically a break even on the trade. So already I would still be ready to trade, but the tone of the market wasn't what I liked, and I'm not even particularly liking what I'm seeing now, even though it's a nice direct move down. I have to go in later and take a look at that and see if we've got something. So, if you're not just amped up and agitated and all cooking on making money, then you can make a decision like, you know what, we might not trade today, very easily, as opposed to, always wanting to turn everything into a trade. And boy, oh, look how far they moved. Oh, I could have made this much. You're not going to get very far in this business thinking like that. It's just, it doesn't work that way, even if other people tell you it does. Okay, so let's see. So yes, Samuel, we are talking about wild swings. Stu's here and he says, hi, David, on 427, he said, any daily closes below 42.60. The ES will go down to 41.36 on 429. On 427, the ES closed at 42.11, but on 428, it closed for 42.60.25, and on 429, it did hit the 41.36 and more downside. With the first occurrence of the lower close override the second occurrence of a higher close? Well, our thing was first of all, between 42.58 and 60, and by closing at 42.60.25, that's just one tick above it. We just consider that neutral. Neutral meaning it's not bullish and it's not bearish. So it didn't really affect if actually it really wasn't a good close. They shouldn't have had to come all the way back down to that level to close there. He says, would the first occurrence of the lower close override the second occurrence of the higher close? As there is conflicting actions, please explain. As long as they were closing below 42.60, and a lot of times I'm starting to think I should name a number other than the absolute number, because 42.60 is the absolute number, and they close one tick above it, it could seem like, hey, man, they closed above it. But in reality, on a daily chart, they would have to close $3 or $4 above that to really have meaning in the way that we mean. So I might have been smarter, from now on saying it's 42.64 or something, but I've gotten into the habit of just giving out the actual numbers and saying plus or minus a couple of points or something like that. So both of them, it would have been very difficult for the market, for reasons I really can't go into. It would have been very difficult for the market to get out of going down. Obviously, I'm only going to forecast things publicly where quite a bit of information is there to say this is what they're going to do. And so they did everything they could, including closing right at 42.60 to try to make you doubt. And just generally speaking, Stu, as you know, the larger the move, generally, the trickier the market's going to be, irrespective of your knowledge. So if you're a person that just simply uses very basic strategies in the market, before the market makes a big move, it's going to do something that throws your basic strategy off or makes you question it. If you're somebody with a more sophisticated strategy, if the market's about to make a bigger move, it's going to throw you off with something that throws your more sophisticated strategy off. And literally, no matter where you are on Trader's Mountain, before the market makes a big move, it's going to do something that's going to challenge your outlook. It's just how markets work. But in many cases, that challenge actually becomes a potential opportunity. And this is one of the reasons that I try to not get into positions for larger moves until the market has done something that looks like a throw off, that looks like something that would be there to throw people off. And I got to tell you, a lot of times I'm in a move even before that happens. But if I can stay out, if there's a really big move that we're planning on seeing, I know there's going to be some tricky thing that they do before they give that move. And no matter what your level of knowledge is, they've got a trick for you to make you doubt your position. I don't fight that idea anymore. I used to fight it and say, well, no, if you really knew a lot, then they would, and it actually, it doesn't seem to matter no matter what you know. They have a trick for you before they pay that bigger move out. And in many cases, it is, people are discouraged enough by what has happened up to that point to just say, the hell with it, I'm not going to trade. And then the move happens. And we've all been through that. It's just part of the nature of how the market finally plays bigger moves out. He says, would the first, so I don't know, Stu, if I really answered your question or not, except to say that it closed appropriately for the continuation move down into the 29th, but it did close right at 42.60, which would make you and did make us, a little bit concerned. It does. There's no question about it. Rob is here and he says, that's funny. 1626 was my bean target too. Well, then great minds think alike, Rob. Let's see. What did they get down to today? They got down to 1629. Yeah. And it didn't have to be as late as June. It had to be just by June. It's just that it's kind of early for June right now. And they've really taken them down here. So we had some nice trades in soybeans based on this. Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. He says unconventional. That's what I was trying to talk about when I was talking about this woman who is struggling with cancer. That they're starting. That may be too late. I hope it isn't, but they're starting some unconventional strategies, which later will be conventional. I heard that, and I haven't checked this out. And I just want to say, and I don't want to degenerate into politics and so on, but that the current administration is, aside from now starting something that is supposed to, like a whole government program, I mean, it's absurd, that's going to try to stop across the internet I mean, the hell with Twitter. Now that they see that somebody can just walk in and buy their protection from them, the protection that Twitter was providing the far left by blocking people who have either a criticism or a better idea or any of that, that could just be bought by some billionaire like Elon Musk. Boy, the administration just very quickly comes right out, just a couple days later, boom, they have a new program they're putting into play, which is going to, battle misinformation. And let me change that let me get out my Joe Biden to English dictionary. That means they're going to come after you in one way or another. Forget the 4 big platforms. If you're on the internet saying things that they don't like, they're going to make you pay. So that's coming. And included in that, somewhere in there, a friend of mine told me, and I don't really have full information on this, they also somewhere in there brought up medical misinformation and so on. So in other words, if they have their way, people who use the internet to talk about medical things and things that they're trying or things that they're doing, if a God-sent doctor doesn't say that that's the normal treatment, then whatever they're doing could be called misinformation. So people won't be able to, if they get their way, which I don't think they will, but if they get their way, people who merely collaborate on ideas are the new devil. Anybody who's collaborating on ideas that might be outside the holy field of medicine, where if you say anything that isn't approved by whoever approves the medical treatments that are given out there now, if anybody goes beyond that, you're going to be in trouble. That's going to be terrible if that actually is allowed, because the exchange of ideas is how society grows, not the blocking of ideas and the canceling of people and their businesses who have different ideas. And so now suddenly, magically, Elon Musk buys Twitter, and a couple of days later, this program comes out where we're going to be managing misinformation and so on and all that stuff. It is the biggest bunch of BS I've ever heard, along with a bunch of other things that this administration comes out. It'd been nice, Mr. President, if you would have been equally as fast with your response to what you call misinformation, which is really any information that you simply don't want to hear or might expose something. It would have been nice, if I may just say so, if you would have been as quick to come out with help for the poor people in Ukraine, which you weren't quick, were you, Mr. President? In fact, you purposely held off giving them help until it became painfully obvious that you couldn't give Putin the wink and the nod as a fellow criminal that he is, that you were going to do nothing so that he could win that war. When it became painfully obvious that he wasn't immediately going to win the war and you were under public pressure, only then did you want to help these poor people in Ukraine who did nothing wrong, who were just living their lives and have a fighting spirit that you and your family tree combined wouldn't have an ounce of. So shame on you for constantly doing the wrong thing. And God love you. You're president of the United States. I respect the office, but in my opinion, you're a zero on every level. And I would say that even if you were in better cognitive shape, it has nothing to do with that. Just your ideas. In fact, if I may say so before I stop on my little rant, the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, you can check it out for yourself, said, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F everything up. And that's what we're seeing here. All right, let me go on. You got me going there. So trying to, this is a family show. No, just joking. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Samuel. He says thoughts are with her that she recovers. Thank you so much for saying that. Prayers for the young lady and family. Thank you, Richard. John says I've seen that one of my favorites talking about the outer limits. Yes, it brought a tear to my eye at the end of the, a great story. It doesn't matter. Special effects, meaningless. They can be fun to watch, but the magic is in the story. Don't let anyone fool you to think that any movie with great special effects, that does it. It doesn't. The thing that does it, the thing that makes people, moves people, is the story. If the story is good, you can tell it to a person verbally and you can bring a person to tears if the story is good, right? I'm talking about like a movie or something. And that story was a really interesting and good story. John also says, I've seen The Millionaire Within Her, and many women went from dirt to wealth. Yes, well said. Richard says, gold comment, please. I don't have a lot on gold right now, except that we're somewhat bearish on it. We don't have a position in gold. Oh no, we do have a position actually, but we're bearish in the longer term. So we're actually in gold for a small bounce that is occurring. We've already initially exited, and that the larger picture is that they're still going to go lower into a period of time here. So we're really trading gold from a perspective that we know the longer term is somewhat down, but there's a bounce here that is due. So that's what we're doing. Thank you, Richard. Stu says, since the monthly close was below 42.20, is the 47.20 into quarter three off, or will subsequent monthly closes above 42.20 resurrect? I like the word, the 47.10 to 47.20 forecast into quarter three. It can, it could, but remember, we're in the second quarter now. So the only other quarter is the third quarter. So if we close the second quarter below 42.20, it ain't good. That's for sure. So I can generally say yes if there was enough time for them to close above it and still have a period of time there. Like if we close this quarter above 42.20, that does help. But I am not totally sure about the bigger picture to be up to 47.20 just now. I want to see them do it, and I want to see them how they do it. But we'll address it more as we get through time here. Stu is here and he says, Bezos bought the Washington Post, complained about Musk Twitter purchases. This is the classic, totally incomprehensible, contradictions of this. I didn't hear anybody complaining about the purchase of the Washington Post and that a billionaire is taking over a paper and the media, and he's taking over the media and so on. You didn't hear that because Bezos had already basically, was on their side. But if the other side does it, it's the classic contradictions, double standards left and right. Joseph Jacka says, the Department of Homeland Security is setting up a disinformation governance board to try to counter the spread of false information. Right. False to who? Because all the false information that Twitter was blocking and other Facebook and others were blocking, virtually all of it turned out to be true. Virtually every bit of it that they were blocking turned out to be true. So what they're really doing is blocking information so that people can't have the full story, and so it protects a particular political party. I just want you to know before we go that there's just about no place in your life right now under the current conditions that hasn't been toxically politicized. So that includes schools, that includes raising your children. Obviously, you know the whole story. That includes going to the doctor. That includes asking doctors to help you to get better. All of it has been toxically politicized at this point. So that means that everything is towards a political end, not your best interests. So we all have to start thinking for ourselves more, because just about everything has been politicized. So that's unfortunate. We'll see how that all goes. It's not going to go so well, Well, that's all I have to say today, but it's been a lot of fun, and I hope some of you will come later today to check out our Square Principle, and if you can do that, that's great. Thank you so much for coming. We'll be here tomorrow. We're doing Market Thoughts 2 times a week, and this is the first of the 2 this week. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, for our Market Thoughts program. Thanks so much, everybody. See you then.